Welcome to Beyond Perception, where it's as always about the journey of self-discovery. My name is Simon, and it is my true pleasure to be here today with Susana Valadez. She's an UCLA anthropologist and the founder and director of the Huichol Center for Cultural Survival and Traditional Arts, known in Mexico as the Centro Indígena Huichol. And in 1977, she married the Huichol yarn artist Mariano Valadez, which launched her on the path to the realization of her life's work. And this non-profit altruistic organization located in the remote town of Huichol, El Alto, Jalisco, Mexico, was established to support the endangered Huichárika. And you might correct me if that was not pronounced as it should be, but they are also called the Huichol tribe. And as members of this ancient culture have been forced to transition into contemporary society and adapt to the realities and challenges of the modern world. And during the last four, I believe almost 5 decades, Susana Valadez, you, even a Nobel Peace Prize nominee, has aided and collaborated with the Wixárika people to spearhead.
Everybody say it. 1, 2, 3. Wixárika.
Huichol.
Hello, everyone. Wixárika.
Huichol.
That's really hard to say.
Yeah, I just asked you before we started the recording to practice pronouncing it, but I have some potential left. I see. Yeah.
Well,
anyway, it's a pleasure to be with you here. Welcome, Susana.
Oh, Simon, I'm so glad you reached out to me. I have a lot to share with you and your audience in the world.
Yeah, and we had a brief conversation 2 days ago, and I shared that with you already, that we basically are living in the same town in Mexico, San Miguel de Allende, where my wife is almost from. She's from the neighbor town Querétaro, and I've been many times in San Miguel de Allende, but this was the first time just a few weeks ago where we bumped into Huichol art over and over again. And this then led us to discover this story, their story, and also the work you do with the Huichol Center. But not only that, also it opened a perspective, a way of seeing through that piece of art we encountered. And that led to contacting you. We had a conversation, and now here we are. So I'm really curious to hear more about your work with the Huichol, but also possibly how they see the world and what we as Westerners who lost our indigenous roots some time ago can learn from them. So
well, thank you, Simon, for your introduction. Wixárika.
Wixárika.
Or Huichol. And hi, everyone. I'm just so glad to be here and just, sound off. It's such a coincidence that our paths cross, Simon, and that you're living in the very town in all of Mexico where I'm now spending a lot of time, because the Huichol Center for Cultural Survival and Traditional Arts, which is the organization that was founded in the 1990s to do philanthropic and charitable and educational work, that's, after 4 decades has come into its own, because it's always been a labor of love. But the Huichol Center for Cultural Survival and Traditional Arts is a 501c3 in the States. We're registered in the state of Washington as well as in New Mexico. But our labor of love, and I underline love, 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 is here in Mexico, in the high mountains of northern Jalisco. The state borders Nayarit and Durango and Zacatecas, and San Luis Potosí is a part of the Huichol cosmological spiritual map. And so I find myself near San Luis Potosí now in San Miguel de Allende, because our current project, which is happening up in the mountains, is depending on cacti that we can bring from the vast deserts of Guanajuato, San Luis Potosí, and just neighboring areas of lots of cacti out here who would love to be adopted. Remember when everybody used to adopt a tree? People, adopt a cacti, please. It's the time for cacti. cacti and succulents and mesquite trees, you know, the whole
Yeah.
marble desert culture of plants and families and habitats. It's their time, and it's the time of cactus to more join into other landscapes because cactus and these plants are drought resistant and they want to be populated. So the Huichol Center's mission is to be in the deserts over here near San Miguel, near where you live,
Yeah.
and harvest as many cacti, provide jobs for people who want to help us with that here in San Miguel. We always love to provide jobs for people. And then we take the cacti back in our pickup truck. It's about an 8-hour drive from where we are in Atotonilco, not exactly in San Miguel, but in Atotonilco. That's a
Yeah.
fun one to say. Everybody say Atotonilco.
Atotonilco. Yeah, I get
Yeah,
that one. Yeah.
kind of that's where we're based here. So it's about an 8-hour drive, and we bring a truckload of cacti with us out of nopales and all different sorts, and maguey plants too.
That's
To yeah, just to populate the landscape with the cacti family. I just feel a real call to Cactus Conservancy. So that's a project we're doing here in San Miguel, but we take the stuff up to Huichol, El Alto Jalisco, and from there, Huichol people can plant them in their homes up in the mountains. It's a cactus propagation center we're working on, Cactus Conservancy. I
yeah.
love it.
And the cacti, they seem to be very important to the Huichol culture. And maybe could you share a little bit, like who are the Huichol exactly, and maybe what is their situation, or what was their situation when you first were introduced to this culture?
Well, you got a whole 2-hour discussion there, but let's start. This is a peyote necklace.
Yeah,
This is
yes,
a peyote in the wilderness. This is beads, woven
it's
beads.
beautiful. Yeah,
And here it's, you know, they've taken artistic license to make it red instead of green, but the peyote is, you know, the crown jewel of the cactus family because it's the intermediary between the cacti consciousness and the humanity at large. Peyote is the voice of the cactus kingdom. So, yeah, Huichols are very much intertwined with being desert custodians, with being venerators of the most highly adored central guiding focus of their culture, which is peyote, and peyote is a cacti. It's the genus is, here's another big word, Lophophora williamsi, and they contain 32 alkaloids, and one of them is mescaline. And as you recall, Aldous Huxley talked about mescaline as the doors of perception. And it's kind of trippy that your program is called Beyond Perception, right?
yeah,
You know, synchronicity, folks. Are you taking? I want you to count all the synchronicities that we're going to mention in this 1 hour.
and you
You know,
just
but we're
mentioned
here to
there.
help each other do this, and all of you out there too.
And you just mentioned that there are desert custodians, because one of the perceptions, I would say, at least I had, is that a desert is a dead place. That's basically not alive anymore. It's dead. Yeah, it's not living anymore. What's your perspective or experience, or the ones of the what role has the desert? What's the importance of the desert? Maybe even.
It's teeming with life, and the life that it teems with is very intelligent life, and there's empathic communication between all different species. There's a ton of interspecies communication going on in the deserts because of the harshness of the environment, which is only going to get worse. And I think even they're freaking out. The desert plants are thinking about how fucking hot it's going to be. You know, you can beep out my bad words, okay? Anyway, it's going to be
Yeah,
hot. Plants are freaking out. Cacti are drought resistant
yeah.
plants. They actually help keep water in the soil. They actually are a great source of food and forage and medicines and utilitarian stuff. and but they're soil fixers, and we're going to need all this good soil that we can get. We need to be composting, making composting out of dead maguey plants, after they flower and they have that big giant stalk and then they die. All of that can be made into rebuilding soil, because that's what's got to happen if humanity is going to survive. And our animals, we don't want horses and cows to go extinct. We're a society that intermingles with so many species, and we're the protectors of them. So the whole stewardship model that we can create and teach other people through the right usage of cacti and the right respect for it and how to cultivate it, it's such a huge educational challenge to get these messages out to the world. But that's why we were picked to do it, because we're the ones who can do it really well and are doing it. I'm so happy to be doing it.
And so from what I understand, cacti are very important in recuperating or regenerating maybe dead soil, or...
I think we haven't even begun to appreciate all the positive benefits of cacti, and how the relationships of cacti to humanity are going to change the dynamic of how everything survives on the face of our beautiful Mother Earth. Because there's got to be that conversation now between relationships of reciprocity instead of relationships of power over and capitalism and all that stuff that's ruining the environment, and all that garbage in the oceans and everything we're looking at. Listen, we got to come through with this good cactus energy, folks. This is going to save us. Take it from me, Susie Cactus Seed.
And I must say, it's very convincing. and
I make a happy face on my cactus.
And the Huichol is an indigenous tribe which was facing a lot of challenges, right? When you first encountered their culture, did their situation change over the last 4 or 5 decades? Like working with them, like who are the Huichol, and how's the situation right now?
Now that's a really good question, and I didn't even answer your first question. We just on the flow with this conversation.
Yeah, it's a conversation beyond perception.
Yeah, we have no real
okay.
You're just letting the carriage go without the driver. The first, I just click it away. What was the question?
I think it will be interesting for our listeners to understand a bit the context. Who are the Huichol, and what is their situation? And then maybe also the relationship to plants and the use of peyote.
Well, it depends how far back you want to go. Because their ancestors were the original inhabitants of the Western Hemisphere. Yeah. And, just because a bunch of people with guns and violence and no morals or anything came and just totally took, extinguished, used whatever they used, manifest destiny to extinguish the tribes, or doesn't mean that they don't own it. Still, they were the original populators of these great lands of North America and South America. And so, they go way back. And further down the time chronicle, they're Uto-Aztecan language speakers. So they definitely have relationships, especially linguistic ones, with the Aztecs and the Nahuatl people. They're related to the Utes, the Ute people, Ute-speaking people in the U.S. They have relatives in the Chihuahuan Sierra Madre with the Tarahumara people, and they have desert relatives with the Hopi. They're related to the Hopi. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And so they're all part of that big migration and everything. But their spirituality is still got an umbilical cord from, this day, September 1st, 2022. They're still connected to prehistoric times, really.
So they really preserve their culture all the time to today.
They're hunter and gatherers, right? They became agriculturalists, and they're big time corn growers, corn, bean, and squash, the milpa, the typical Mesoamerican crops. But when I got there in the 1970s, I got there in 1975, and yes, I was a UCLA grad student working on my master's degree in Latin American studies, where it could be interdisciplinary. And so, you know, I was 24 in 1973, living in LA. Folks, give me a break, you know. All my flower children work paid off. All that orange sunshine and mushrooms and going to Woodstock. I didn't go. I was there in spirit. And whatever that music of our age was that penetrated through to my generation, the baby boomers, I got it when I was studying in UCLA, and I wanted to know a lot more about entheogenic plants. And first of all, my real interest was how the plants give us symbols. So I was also always interested in phosphines and things you see in your hallucinations and how that translates into art, which is I'll put a little art on the screen while I'm talking.
Yeah, I have that piece here. We saw that before, no? Like this is the one we brought from Mexico, no? It's amazing. Yeah, you can better describe it than me. Maybe you can also share a little bit about the process.
We can totally get back to that. Totally, we'll get back to that. But how do peyote visions translate into the art of a hunter and gathering tribe, right? So one of the only existing ones now in the hemisphere, let's just say North America, who have kept their culture going to such a strong degree because of that interdependence between them and the plants and the peyote wisdom keepers. You know, in the times when people were animals and could talk to animals, and had back then and still do powers to pierce the veil between our human world and the spirit world. And that's really cool. And they still do that. They're guardians. That's why. They're stewardships. And so, but they're stewards of the planet and all of their folklore, herbal medicine knowledge, indigenous wisdom underlined a million times goes back to then. That's the source. And so, in answer to your question, when I got there in 1975, wanting to study plants and how they affect art, being a UCLA grad student, also anthropology, they were quite different than they are today. And I feel really lucky that I was at the tail end of a kind of a group of anthropologists who made up real ethnographic efforts between the late 1800s and 21st century, 21st century, yeah. You know, starting off with, there were German guys, there were Norwegian, there was, so Carl Lumholtz, Norwegian, 1898, came in, and then Preuss, Conrad Preuss, German, worked during World War II, Diguet, a French guy. And these collections are in museums in Paris, Museo de Homme, and in the Berlin Natural History. And American guy named Robert Zing, who did a fantastic thing and actually has a collection in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where our foundation has an office. We've worked closely with the Zing collection. There was actually an exhibit done around this collection that was collected in the 1930s and 40s. And then came Peter First in the 60s. He's the anthropologist from UCLA who kind of founded the art of yarn painting. And then came John and Colette Lilly, Juan and Ivana Green. Then came me, Stacy Schaefer. And but then everything started changing, you know. Johanna Neroth, I don't know when he came in. A bunch of people who are kind of brought disgrace to the ethnographic record, so I don't even talk about them.
Okay.
But I don't talk about them, but
and when you encountered them, the Huichol were facing a cultural extinction.
well, absolutely. It was the first. Yeah, I was the
It's
last.
beautiful. Yeah.
I was one of the. So I was the last of that wave of the real academic anthropologists. Even though not everyone had college degrees, but
Yeah.
Peter Collings. Oh my God, I came in with Peter Collings in the '70s. He got there in the late '60s and brought me in the early '70s. Canadian guy, Peter R. Collings. That's who introduced me to the Deep Sierras and the artist who I eventually married, Susana Valadez, father
Yeah.
of three,
So,
grandfather of
so you got
four.
really immersed in their culture.
Well, I married the subject of my
Yeah.
investigation. Must be
That's
that's
the
the,
ideal scientist.
well, that's the effect of all these psychedelics I used to take when I went to Led Zeppelin concerts in LA. It's like
Yeah.
there was an effect. I thought, and I still do. I thank the universe to give me the heart that could reach out to someone who's so different from me and find our commonalities in the course of really having love and raising a family. And so taking psychedelics opened my mind to those possibilities, and I rejected conventional wisdom of sanctions against interracial marriage. I love mixing it up. Yeah, we're mixing it up, and our
Uh,
descendants are all awesome in their
and
own
what,
right.
when you're speaking now about psychedelics, would you say there's a difference between how modern Western civilization is approaching psychedelics and how, for example, peyote is part of the Huichol culture?
Oh, well, I'm just putting art up while I talk so people can not look at
So
me.
art is, yeah,
Uh, there you
it's
go.
beautiful. Yeah.
These are all nature designs too, which you'll notice. But what were you asking about the art?
Because you mentioned psychedelics, so my
Oh,
question would be,
look
is
it
there a
up.
difference between how the Western civilized modern world is approaching psychedelics and how the Huichol people or the Huichol tribe is using peyote,
Yeah.
approaching?
Well, um, okay, we can give a spoiler alert here. What I'm going to say is controversial. Okay. So if you don't want to hear the truth, turn down your dial on your radio. But let me tell you something. People who don't come from that Euro-Aztecan lineage that stands down all through Mesoamerica and Central America, even the PPL people who don't have the sense of ritual regarding peyote that
Mm-hmm,
these peoples of Mexico and Euro-Aztecan, they're clueless about
mm-hmm,
peyote. And this includes Native American cultures who only just got peyote and did the Native American church thing. Quanah Parker brought it from Mexico, brought peyote to Native Americans for rituals a couple hundred years ago. Wasn't that long ago. And thank God they got the freedom of what's it called? Religion Act or
mm-hmm,
religious
mm-hmm,
freedom, indigenous religious freedom.
mm-hmm.
That once they discovered it from people who, maybe down the road blended some ancestral ties, but the original knowledge, the original peyote knowledge, and all that goes through that. I don't even know what to call it. Is it a sect?
Mm-hmm.
These are deep rituals and many rituals and so much symbolism and so much archetype, dream archetype that's pan-human also, not
Mm-hmm.
just them. The peyote is like a lotus. It's true. Look at it. It's like a lotus. It has so many levels of
Mm-hmm.
knowing. To each one of these is like, an icon on your computer and just click on it and go where it takes you. Click on this middle one, the flower one. Peyote flowers are so beautiful. But there's so much knowledge
Mm-hmm.
to uncover with this cacti, who this cacti, as I said, was the voice of the entire cactus kingdom. Why? Because it's the communicator cactus. That's what it is. So when Native Americans got it too, they said, hey, I can see a little bit better to hunt the deer. when I take peyote. And so, this is actually what Terence McKenna says about the stoned ape theory, but we'll apply it to peyote. They said that the apes came down from the trees and ate mushrooms and had better visual acuity, and that's why they ate mushrooms for survival of the tribe. But it's the same with peyote. Survival, it has survival hints about how to plant corn, about, in Mesoamerica, the corn emerged out of, it was an experiment actually, created from grass. It's yeah, grass, grass seed is its progenitor. So, Native peoples were working with inventing corn and communicating with the plant world. And the peyote openly and freely taught them shamanic knowledge, which is still in use today. Why? Because plants need caretaker. Peyote needs caretaking. Peyote needs to be propagating everywhere and anywhere throughout the world. And the big controversy is that it belongs to the Native American church and Native American people. And so if you have ancestry going back to Aztec times and you're up in the States being with nice people who are from sustainable communities and really want to get the messages from nature, and your Huichol shaman goes there, he'll be thrown in jail under the law. And because Native Americans from this one group of people with interests that aren't in the interest of peyote are making big squawks about, and they're not happy with my position that peyote needs to be decriminalized so it can be cultivated. It needs to be cultivated. So if you want to know more about this topic, go to Decriminalize Nature website, Decriminalize Nature, and learn more about the subject. Anyway, to get back to your question, and I'll give you the floor in a minute. It's all about relationships of reciprocity with nature, and the Huichols are the stewards of that, and your shamans are the mentors. And in modern times, it's all going to hell in a handbasket. It's like disappearing before my eyes and getting worse and worse and worse. So it's really important to do this good work right now. It's like 2 minutes to 12 on the doomsday clock here, and I'm serious. This current generation, they're not getting it. A lot of them still are, but so what our work is doing really, I'm back engineering a vision of the future that I have, where cactus lands are plentiful, whereas we came together as humans from all cultures, all races, all everything, just came together to keep our planet going and to keep the animals safe and to not have to give up beautiful things that have been part of humanity forever. It only comes together when we come together around the plants and being stewards of plant knowledge and teaching it. And so I look back from 50 years from now, and I see beautiful results of what we started now, and the cultures, indigenous cultures, and their language. This is a language of symbols, not just pretty flower. It's got deep meaning. So that's the original knowledge that the hunter and gatherers who came through millennium have to teach us today. So my work is a protector of this vast body of knowledge and symbols and art forms, and a protector of the people who carry it. Because if the people are dying of hunger and give up their culture because they can't go deer hunting for a deer or buy candles or do these ancient rituals, they have to leave the culture, get jobs, go up to the norte and never come back. Or are kidnapped by the cartels and all sorts of terrible things happening. So this generation really needs to be, it's like I feel like I'm a shepherd, and when the little sheep goes off, and it's like I want to be a strong enough magnet to pull these people back so they really embrace their culture, and what a blessing it is to be a Wixárika and have this umbilical cord to the past, but the umbilical cord to the future too, because it's only this care and stewardship and reciprocity that's going to get us through the obstacles. Reciprocity with the plants and reciprocity with each other. Let's get on the same page. People who take psychedelics, they cannot hate you. They are not hateful people. It's like it'll just the water is muddied now, but we're going to put in so much pure, beautiful water that the mud's going to get out, and we're going to be clear crystalline bags of water once again, once we eliminate the hates. But we do that. with their psychedelic plants of mushrooms, ayahuasca, cannabis, of course, peyote. So in that sense, peyote stands like the crown, the choice gem and the crown of humanity. It's really up there with our third eye. And for me, to be a caretaker of this third eye and the people who have this third eye has been my life's vocation. And that's why I guess, the Nobel Peace Prize nomination came my way. So that was a big honor. And I can talk about it occasionally on podcasts. I don't, that was in 2019. I've moved on a lot since then. Thank you for recognizing good things. But the work has really moved forward big time.
It's very interesting. And from what I know, there are around 50,000 Huichol remaining. I'm not sure if that number is correct. And from what I'm understanding now is that the Huichol culture and the peyote or the cacti, they're kind of interconnected. So without the peyote, there is no Huichol culture anymore. But without the consumers or caretaker of that cacti, there's also no that way of living will not sustain itself. Is it interconnected, the culture
Oh, it's
with
totally
peyote?
interconnected. It's totally, the Huichols are who they are. They've kept their culture viable and thriving. Well, they're incredibly impoverished, but at least they're here and they've keeping up somehow, some way. They're keeping up the rituals. And so they're here, they're going strong, and their reason for being is to be guardians of peyote and to be spearhead movements like this one to make peyote in abundance. Look at corn. Look at corn. And it's corn, peyote, and deer. That's their holy trinity. But look at corn. It was invented in the Tehuacan Valley. I think that's the name of it, in central Mexico. And now it's all over the world. It stopped famine. It's in so many things. It's in fructose syrup. We won't talk about that. But oil. Corn has that plant consciousness managed through relationships of reciprocity with humans to be planted in the far corners of the world and thrive as a plant species because it's repopulated itself. It's self-propagating now. That's the goal of our friends from the plant world. And peyote, it's peyote's time right now to be all over. To be all over and accessible, and to be as common to have it in our lives, in our school, because it's not just, we're not getting high here. It is a school. It's a school.
And at what age do Huichol people start with peyote? Is there an initiation? Is like how's their interaction with peyote? How do they consume it, or is it continuously? Is it for special occasions?
It's a venerated plant ally, and so everybody forms their own relationship with it. If they, it's not addictive, and it's certainly, you can certainly function. There's lots of microdosing among Huichols of peyote, lots of microdosing, but for ceremonial use, when your family and people and guests come together for ceremonies that celebrate planting or the harvest or the lives of our beautiful children as an initiation when they're 5 years old, but they attend the ceremony every year. But actually, they attend a harvest ceremony every year that initiates kids into the tribe at a very young age. But in answer to your question about how peyote is introduced to them, well, guess what? It's introduced to them through the breast milk of the mother, through in utero. In utero.
So they're consuming peyote during
why wouldn't
pregnancy.
They want the kid to be cool. If a lady's pregnant, she's not going to say, he's going to jump through a window. Why wouldn't they want to want their children to have the blessings and the insight, and from being in utero, be open to that hose umbilical cord of knowledge that's coming from their ancestral, their own ancestors and their cultural tradition ancestors going back to their hunter-gathering days. Why wouldn't they want to give their child in the womb an opportunity to connect, make good connections with that world while they're in it? So there's no taboo on what age you can give your kid peyote. And yes, the nursing mothers, they're obligated to participate in their rituals because that's what they are. They're ritual people. That's what they do. That's their trip. And so there's no, I'm breastfeeding, I can't eat peyote. On the contrary. So, it's all a cultural view, but that's one thing I've learned living among them. And, I didn't come to the US. I have lived continually with my family, and it's grown all the time in many ways, but many Huichol ways too. So I'm like, the matriarch of at least my kids and grandkids now. But my other family members are also matriarchs, so we're pretty in our own ways. I don't pretend to be a Huichol or do their rituals. Their rituals are their rituals. But I can certainly get some good ideas, like burning copal incense or what an altar looks like, or just an awareness. Share their awareness and share mine with them. Everybody contributes to the good road of being a custodian. Being a custodian of planet Earth, deciding to do that, and that you don't decide today. It's not like a New Year's resolution on January 1st. You're gonna lose 50 pounds, and then on January 2nd, it's just
maybe next year.
Banana split. I haven't had a banana split since I was a teenager. My God, that was a long time ago. I'm gonna be 71 next month. I only have a month left to be 70. So I'm glad I made it this far. I hope I can enjoy the presence of everybody's company and give you the presence of mine for many years to come, and that our cactus project really thrives in the Huichol Center's permaculture and tilapia growing project thrives. But most of all, my vision is for our lands. We have lots of land up in the mountains to just be filled with peyote and peyote propagation centers and provide jobs. I provide lots of jobs as artists. This art comes from somewhere, right? But the big push is going to be to provide jobs as cactus propagators, because people have to know how to do the right thing. It could be some embroideries. I'll keep It's an eagle.
And
two-headed eagle. So I don't know if you can see it.
Yes, we see it. Yeah, it's very...
all it's like tiny stitch. So yeah, these could be rows and rows and rows. Actually, I don't want to plant peyote in rows. It doesn't grow in rows in nature. So my job is to recreate the endemic growing region with all different kinds of cacti. That's why I'm planting all different kinds of cacti, to add alkaloids to the soil and to, rebuild that soil, because we have a lot of hard rock in our soil now. I know the desert environment does too, but we've got to get beyond that. So we have to really be into foraging and planting magueys to provide us with that soil regeneration, mulches and materials. We also have our organic fertilizer, our worm farm. Anybody who's interested in permaculture and what we're doing, wants to do some back-breaking work for free, contact me on our website. Are you going to put our website up?
Yes, of course. I will share your details, of course, with this conversation in the show notes below, so everybody who's interested can contact you.
Yeah, leave it on the screen a long time.
Yeah, I will put it even that you have it with the conversation. And also what our idea was initially, this conversation to be a general overview, and then also have possibly follow-on conversations where we talk, or you share with us about specific topics like the artwork or shamanism, or even the language. You introduce a little bit about their symbolic language. It's very interesting. Or permaculture, which you just mentioned. So everybody who's listening to this is invited to also share questions and comments, so that we can pick them up.
It could be like a bi-weekly podcast or something.
Yeah, we can see how this evolves. and
Maybe people who are watching this can let us know
and
if they like it, or ask questions, and then we'll get to your question next week. Like,
yeah, and I have one question for you, because what you shared with me is I'm waking up in the morning and I'm happy. I'm like, I don't know the exact words you shared with me, but it was very very convincing. Yeah. And then I shared with you here in Germany or Switzerland, this is not usual. And you also said you're blessed by this culture. And why is it so important also maybe for the Western world to connect with this, with, or to connect with this way of seeing the world? Or you spoke about that reciprocity. Like, why is it important for us to listen and to and
to be open to
ourselves?
getting
Yeah.
this.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you something. When you
Yeah.
wake up in the morning, are you happy? Are you happy, happy, happy? Oh, blessed day. Or how many billions of people say, oh, fuck, another day, you know, another day of not being happy.
Yeah, I can say now I'm happy, but for 99% of my life, that was the case.
Well, good for you. You know,
Maybe as a child. Yeah.
we pulled you along, you know, Pied Piper here. Come on down.
Yeah.
During the happiness train, during the happy train, here's the deal. When we embrace the knowledge that these guardians and stewards and caretakers have brought through the millennium, when we realize that that knowledge is available to us as a way to just approach the world, approach nature. Like when you look out your window, you don't just see a tree, but you see your friend. Your tree is your favorite tree. And as you walk down the path, you get another favorite cactus, or you walk down the path and you see a dog, and that's your favorite dog. Um, or whatever, but just an approach to living in this world, being in this world as an eternal soul, as someone who doesn't embrace fear but embraces positivity, of someone who believes that your life has meaning, and there's a purpose for it, which is why we undertake this vocation. Believe me, I'm not on vacation here in San Miguel or in Huichol. I'm on vocation, but it gives me joy to do that. See, people think that you can just complain and complain and complain about how things are and never do anything. But what my journey with the Huichol has taught me is how powerful one person is and one person's vision is, and how much help we get from the good vibes and the good spirit world towards doing these goals, because that's the plan. People in our century have forgotten what the plan is because of this huge disconnect. And so we're reweaving this tapestry of humanity and knowledge that's been just eaten by moss or disintegrated. We're reweaving our common human experience and shared ancestry, because, you know, at some point we all go back. We're all related.
Mm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
even, you know, literally from the Big Bang Theory on. We're all related.
Mm-hmm.
We are. And so indigenous wisdom helps us remember our memory, remember our humanness, remember our source energy, and not only remember it and acknowledge it, but assume our place, our respectful place, towards the powers in the universe who are so much greater than us. There's so much wonderfulness and love for us and power to live our lives happy. And all we got to do is like find the way to connect with that. And indigenous wisdom from the Huichols helps us doing that by forming relationships of reciprocity with our plant teachers, our animal mentors, our natural guides. And we can't have a world without these entities in them. We're all connected. So they help us with what I call interspecies communication, the plants. And that's the wisdom that the Huichol ancestry carries down through the ages. And it's not about me imitating them or wanting to appropriate stuff. they just have some really good ideas about how to approach life and how to bring my ultimate goal, which is to be able to wake up every day and say, I'm so happy. Today's going to be much better than yesterday. And by the way, it already is, because we're having this interview and I'm able to say, hey, hiya to the world through you. So thank you for that. And I hope we can continue these podcasts.
And before you mentioned that the peyote is related to the third eye, is maybe the use also of peyote a means to initiate or to see world through the third eye, to look into different worlds, dimensions, like a broader spectrum of what there is, instead of maybe just be focused on the material world?
Well, absolutely. And, again, doors of perception, beyond perception. It opens our third eye because it reacts, the alkaloids in peyote, I think it's got 64 alkaloids. Oh my God. And, some of them are psychoactive and they interact with the pineal gland, which I would call as a third eye, right? So it's an opening. It's an opening. And it's like when you open your car, the gas tank, and you put the hose in it. And you're helping, who's ever holding that hose of knowledge, just bump it right in. You become an open receptacle of sacred and life-changing knowledge. You become open to having epiphanies through the communication with the plant world. And I'm not just talking about the psychedelics. I mean, foods, medicine. We're part of that. They're part of our ancestry too. So it's rediscovering that. That's our purpose for being here. And that's what we need to learn ourselves and teach others. And I hope that through these podcasts, we can share it.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, I've been reflecting on language a little bit over the last days, and also what you're sharing, the Western mind, or what you shared before. Our perception here in the Western world is rather separated. Oh, it's me. There's something separate out there, and I have to, in a way, fight for my survival in a sense. And there's a lot of stress and and in the context of language. So it's also interesting to think about, because how we use language, as I'm talking now, there's, for example, there's a tree over there, but what I'm like describing with my words is not the reality of the tree, but basically referring to the concept of the tree. So the tree is maybe the trunk, the leaves, the roots, but in reality, the tree is also the soil, the air, the soil, the sun, because it cannot exist without it. So in reality, everything is connected. But when I'm using my words, I'm creating my perception of the tree is separate, or I'm separate. And long story short, we start believing that we are separate by the use of our language, which is kind of like describing things as separate from each other. But in reality, it's not separate from us. And my long story short, what I want to know, or what we're curious about, how is you mentioned, I think, symbolic language. How is that possibly different to the way we are using language?
Oh, it's totally different. It's like the way that Western cultures use language is like primitive. We're not using language in all of its, like a diamond, like all of its facets. We're just so focused on linear written, or especially written language. The written word is going to be extinct really soon. I got to tell you, it all came from icons, and it's all going back to icons. So and that's one thing that we call native cultures. I don't call them that ever, but primitive. They are not primitive because they have highly advanced usages of language that go far beyond the written word. The written word has only been in use for like how long? When was the printing press made, or when was the when did we start making books?
Are you, if I may ask, are you referring to spoken language then, or is it a telepathic language, exchange of mental images, or?
They have all, but they have one language that's foreign to the Western mind, and that, except for hieroglyphs or Jung's archetypes, these are archetypes. And any Huichol and any yarn art, look at this one about death. That was made by my son, Huichol Valadez.
So those are the symbols representing their language.
Some of them.
Some of them, yes.
Yeah, this is from these are flashcards I use in our school to teach the kids. But they're actually trilingual. But let me go back to a yarn painting that I showed you a minute ago.
Yeah.
This is a story, and anyone who is fluent in Huichol culture,
yeah,
and the ceremonial traditions,
yeah,
can decipher this, because they're mutually intelligible symbols. It's not just, like some artist sitting down on a canvas wanting to just make a pretty canvas. This is a story that's being conveyed, and people look and go, "What's that? What's that?" What are these things? What is that plant? What's going on with these drops? What's going on with this?
Yeah, we want to know.
Sign up for my course. Description box. Let me show you another example. This is a gourd bowl of life. It's got the sacred waters. They're also a huge part of Huichol culture, is being water caretakers and water gods and goddesses, mostly goddesses, and rain. That's why I have all the drops. It's so much about water in their culture, but they use water when they go to sacred places, which is what this place is, because the animal guardians are there, jaguar and a wolf, which are really important. See, here we go. Here's a jaguar. Here's a jaguar, right? See, they don't look the same, but everybody looking at it knows it's jaguar. So it's not like an Egyptian glyph or a Mayan glyph where the same image or Aztec glyph. It's not the same.
And the jaguar represents an archetype, a quality, an experience. Or
the jaguar represents shaman knowledge, seers of the night, seer through the how jaguars are nocturnals. They were original knowledge givers to Huichols because they explored the hidden realm of the night and day, and the hidden realm of our being, life and death. The invisible realms. The jaguars are the guides to the invisible realms, and so they guide the shamans in their songs. And when the shamans travel in their visions, the jaguars, you the baby one, the jaguars are the guides. Isn't their art wonderful?
Yeah, it's beautiful, yeah.
So, the hummingbird means stuff, the sun is the father's son, and illumination, and major deities with places that pertain to them. Look at this, bees for fertility, hummingbirds, messengers of the gods and goddesses and ancient ones, and luck and abundance, fertility. The squirrels are the companions of the people who go to the Peyote Desert. Just in any one of these, you can see these symbols appearing and reappearing. So that's what I'm saying about it's a language of symbols, and it's really important that these symbols remain in our psyches, in our consciousness. I bet Carl Jung would have a gas with all the stuff that I've collected, because it really is, living among the people. Just for, I'm not the anthropologist. I don't stick the microphone in someone's face and, say, tell me the Huichol Pantheon or all the stuff I really want to know. No, all of my knowledge through marrying into the culture and just being in the scene and present, as a family member. I've really been penetrated through osmosis with lots of information that
I can imagine. Yeah.
That I just now know intuitively. And so that's the cool thing about what my perspective has to offer to humanity, and something I really want to share, is because I can be a translator, a bridge between two worlds, because of the levels, the deep levels of all that I've kind of just gleaned over the last almost 50 years now, half a century. I'm a language translator. But anyway, you're getting the idea here how these are symbols, right?
Yeah.
Like this, for instance, we saw this. Can you see this in the wall? No, but we saw this here. See the candle?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, but this one has a flower and one doesn't. So, if you say to me, if you say the person on the street, what's the difference between them? Well, there's a huge difference between them, because this one is a ceremonial candle that's been anointed with the blood of a bull or a lamb or a goat in a sacred ceremony, and it's brought to sacred places, which is what this is. But this candle is the one that they light and take with them back to the temple. And this one with the flower and the blood is left as offerings to these sacred places. And that practice, that ritual practice, is really cool, because through leaving offerings, it's an act of reciprocity. People say, okay, gods and goddesses, thank you for keeping my children safe, and for the beautiful ceremonies that we had, and for all the abundance. Thank you for the fire that warms my food and gives me enlightenment. Thank you. That's forgot where I was going with that.
It's beautiful. And my question is how that artwork, how is that created? Is it derived through peyote consumption? Is it because as far as I know, there are no there's no Scrabble, like it's basically emerging from a blank sheet, no? Like everything out of nothing. There is no preparation by outlining things or so.
No, it's all channeled. That's what they're learning when they embark on their spiritual path and do these rituals, including leaving the candle at the place where they're saying thank you for my creativity, thank you for having safe families, thank you for whatever your prayer is. They leave the candles there and offering items, but that's the way they make the magic work. It's their way of what do you call it? It's their way of making their presence in the universe known to the greater creator through the bringing of offerings that were created in the ceremonies, where people really work hard to create these offerings. Many days of rituals, sacrifice, deer hunting, so many things that they have to do in order to be able to bring their offerings to the sacred place and say thank you, and help me along on my path. And when the gods see that you're, venerating them and appreciating and bringing them life in their distant abodes in the 4 different directions where there's actual places where the offerings are taken, when they see that you're sincere and are deserving of it, then they impart the knowledge to you. And for artists who want to be on the artist path, they actually help them see designs in their dreams, and not just wake up and forget them, but actually wake up and remember them. And then they have these epiphanies and do amazing artwork. So much of Huichol art comes from that space, which is so cool, but also from that space where they are recreating these ancient symbols and bringing that language to life, which is what's so amazingly beautiful, but so important in understanding our psyche, and where our understanding and our abilities to communicate beyond words on the empathic level. And it's computer age. Look at your smartphone. Those are all symbols. What are they? That you click on it, you're going to be taken to wherever it is you're directing. And so,
it's a portal.
the portals. So the Huichol symbols have those qualities, but in the spiritual world, not in the technological world. They can give you visions in your dreams that, you'll make a yarn painting of and be able to support your family for 2 months because you sold it and it's beautiful. And keeping in touch with the art form that's culturally relevant, not doing weird stuff. But although Huichol art is evolving, but that could be the subject of our next podcast. Why we're seeing beaded elephants in tourist shops, that could be. So,
And you said before that the artist way. So are there different paths a
yeah,
young
yeah,
Huichol child
yeah,
can
yeah,
choose from?
yeah,
How is that? So I want to be an artist. I want to be a shaman, or
yeah,
and what?
and you got it. You
And then
got it.
the child can decide on that.
Yeah, you pick your own course.
And at
But
what age is that? Like whenever
what?
and that's at any age when the child is saying like, ah, I want to do this.
Sometimes the parents will embark the kid on the course and take them to different places and introduce them to peyote but at least the kid will participate in night-long shamanic ceremonies so that they can find their way in the spirit world. But
So they go into a ritual or a ceremony with the intention of finding or discovering
they're calling.
the path they are meant to take.
Yeah, calling. And it could be a musician's path. If you choose to be a musician and you follow the course, because it's not easy, but it's doable. And the rewards are wonderful because, so many of these musicians who are playing Huichol music on instruments that they make themselves, their songs have all been channeled as rewards for them for keeping their word and completing their tasks so that their vows could be validated through the creation of ceremonies and these things that they take to the ceremonial places in the 5 directions actually. That's the God's eye. This represents the Huichol universe. It's an earring, but it's a God's eye. So that's the center direction, north, south, and east, west. But that's their cosmological map where the gods and goddesses reside, and it's your obligation when you say, okay, give me these powers, please, I beseech you. I want to be the best. I want to play the most beautiful music to celebrate you, and I want to make people happy with my art, or I want to be able to heal. Please tell me how to dream what the person's illness is. Please tell me. And they say, well, you're going to have to do this, this, and that, which means going on a sacred path and having real obligations like fasting or not lying with your wife or husband for.
So you get that information, you're receiving that information, what is required in a sense to initiate it.
Yeah, it's like going through medical school. It really is, because their level of shamans, if you really stick to the path, and it's hard. Because
there's the saying, with great powers comes great responsibilities.
Yeah, and it's hard, and we succumb to human frailties all the time. And Huichols, as they go into the modern age more and more, they're more succumbing to human frailties and given to temptations, or just get lazy around what their obligations are. And then they'll say, well, if I'm expelled from my tradition, at least I could become a Jehovah's Witness and not have to do any of this hard stuff. And so that's what we're contending with in this present generation. It's all going to shit.
That we just started the path, and then at some point they decide to quit that path.
Yeah, they're coerced. Coerced by the convenience or the ease of which you can get by in life without doing this Huichol stuff. And so there's a lot of pushback. What does this get me? What does it get me? But anyone who's really in the know, like a shaman who's prevailed over at least a 30-year type of apprenticeship and been right on, and a hallmark of human positive mentor traits, then you become the significant human being. Then you become immortal. You become a living God in their culture. And why? Because you've unlocked the doors of perception, and You've gone beyond perception to the reservoir of knowledge about healing and how to use our psychic powers, how to use our dreams, how to channel wonderful designs in artwork or beautiful music. And you've earned it, you've done it, and then it just comes to you as your reward. Not that you do it for the reward. I wouldn't become a shaman for the reward. I would become a shaman for the experience of having spirit run through me all the time and being able to do miracle healings or call the clouds or for rain or just foresee something I'm meant to foresee. That would be my reward. I think that'd just be darn fun.
Yeah, it's a very interesting conversation, and we're kind of jumping a bit through the universe of
We warned
themes and
everyone,
topics.
right?
Yeah, and I would love to follow on in another conversation, and want to thank you at that point, Susana. Yeah, I'm very grateful, yeah, for taking the time to give us a perspective into the Huichol universe. And yeah, and I would love to just remind everybody out there listening and watching this, if there are questions, if there are suggestions, if there are themes or topics you would like to know more about, then please just give us a comment, and we will be happily picking that up and think about maybe a theme or a topic for the next conversation, if
Yeah.
that sounds good to you, Susana.
That sounds wonderful, Simon. It's just been a joy talking to you. I feel like we've been friends forever. And you ask such wonderful questions, and there's so many multiple layers of answers. I hope I've at least given you a glimpse of, the Huichol universe and where I am as this Ellie hippie chick who married into the culture and is like somehow or other finds herself in the middle of this amazing destiny that keeps unfolding and keeps getting better. And time to share the knowledge, time to get people planting cacti and caring a lot more and I'm an activist in my own way. I've invented myself, so I hope I can be as a mentor as so many people have been to me and inspire other folks. So I have a website. It's the Huichol Center, thehuicholcenter.org, www.thehuicholcenter.org. And I would love to hear from you.
Yes, yes, please. And as I said before, I will add your webpage to this conversation so that everybody can just click it here.
Oh, that'll be so cool. Click on that donate button, friends. Transporting cacti 8 hours in our pickup truck does use up a lot of gas money.
Just before the conversation, my wife has a few cacti, and she just walked you through our little cacti balcony garden. Yeah,
so fun. You guys
so
are
we're
really
starting. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know we're going to have lots of conversations in the future, Simon, and this is our first one, everyone. This is our virgin voyage.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you again, Susana. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Was very joyful. Yeah. Thank you for being here with us, and that's for you, Susana, but also for everybody out there. Thank you for being here, and take care, and yeah, see and speak soon. Yeah.
Hasta la vista, amigo.
What's my potential? What's really inside me? Is it possible to be joyful and to express who I truly am? Do I have unique gifts and talents? If I do, how do I find them? And if I find them, how do I bring them into life? And is it even possible to make a living from what I actually love to do? Those were some of the questions which drove me now more than a decade. And I don't want to give you a definitive answer, but I learned very valuable principles on my quest that helped me to discover who I am and to bring what I am actually into this life, beyond expectations, beyond conditioning, beyond limiting or self-defeating negative thoughts. And now I want to be the bridge and pass those principles on to you, and not only remind you with my words, but actually enable you to discover and experience that for yourself, real self-discovery that You are a wonderfully creative being, a genius in the true sense of the word, and you have the potential and the possibility to unfold what is actually in you and set yourself creatively free. This is my mission. Very important, please don't believe my words or possibly your own skeptical thoughts, but check it out, experience it for yourself, and take part in our next seminar, Structural Creativity. More information here. I'm really looking forward to set your creativity free.